Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I guess as Helena just said there, it's kind of, hopefully this sparks something and gets you thinking about the future of education. I spent a few weeks pulling this together. Actually, it's been harder than I thought, but let's kick off, I guess. So this is the Great Education PowerUp, and it's what might the future of education look like. I'm Chris. I'm the head of creative. I've left Neil in here because he was going to be part of this, but he is too busy working on pitches currently for our actual clients, so he now can't make it. So I'm going to be doing the whole thing. As I said, I'm the head of creative at an agency called Whitespace. We're a creative agency based in Edinburgh, just next to the Cattle. We're focusing on ideas, creativity, innovation, and technology, and help bring this approach to our amazing clients that we have. And we also care deeply and do a lot with the next generation, working in schools, colleges, and universities around creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. It's something we're very, very passionate about it, and I'm very passionate about that as well. In terms of kind of the work we do, we are heavily digitally driven and creative driven. We've done some cool work in the last year or so around AR and VR, and we've done Snapchat films and the likes. The top one was around encouraging people to socially distance via Snapchat. And we've done some great work with Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins and in this VR world and these portals that you throw onto the floor and go into different worlds and things. So we do some really, cutting edge innovation in technology is kind of our bag. And we're part of Isobar. So Isobar is a global agency network that loves to invent, make, and change. And you'll find us all over the world. An amazing group of very talented people at the cutting edge of creativity and innovation and technology. And we've been recognized as an innovation leader globally in digital experience, commerce, AR, and VR from the likes of the Fast Company, Gartner, Forrester, and Cannes Lions. And we believe that the point of meaningful differentiation is experience, and creativity is the most powerful force to making change happen. So moving on, connected world. So, we've all lived through the last 10 years, but the last 10 years has seen an exponential explosion of connectivity. The world is now more connected than ever, and it's only going to continue to keep growing with new connections and technologies which help drive new ways of working and communicating. And I want to talk to you about two things today. The first one is what is happening right now across innovation, data, and technology, and two, what might be happening by 2030 in our schools and education. So if you have any questions as we go through, just pop them in the chat or save them for later. And if we have time at the end, I can try and answer some of them. So let's get starting. So we're at the beginning of the most transformative revolution ever our planet has ever seen. And there have been 3 revolutions before the one we are now in. The first one being steam, which appeared in the 18th century. Then electricity came along towards the end of the 19th century. And so that was revolution 2. Obviously that one's, we're still using electricity. And then revolution 3, which is the information age. So this started in the middle of the 20th century and led to computer mainframes and networks, then onto the birth of the internet, and then into in the 90s, which I witnessed, which was pretty cool. And now we're in the age of the 4th revolution, and that is intelligence. So in the last 10 years or so, the advent of smaller and faster processing power and super fast wireless connections has led to smarter technology that can interact with humans and other devices all across the world, freeing us up to do less repetitive type work while they take some of the strain. So this connected world is going to lead to more things talking to more things ultimately. And the key is to make sure that they talk to each other about the right things and in the right way to create new digital ecosystems and virtual worlds that are ultimately useful to us and to humanity. And I think there is an opportunity here to apply this connectedness to our schools and to global education to create more diversity as well as more personalized and relevant lessons to empower our children and our teachers of the world to embrace education in new and exciting ways. So traditionally, this is the technical bit, technology has been used by us in kind of different streams. So we're at the top and we have different touch points like the, computers, shopping, our phones and the like. And all these things help us in their own right, but they don't actually talk to each other very well. And this is kind of where most brands and businesses are right now. So with connected intelligence, what happens is we create a smarter, holistic, and more connected world around individual people. So it becomes all these touch points and technologies actually start to work together and talk to each other to create our own little kind of virtual digital worlds. And this allows us to do unique and wonderful things. So this is just an example of a piece of tech that kind of does that already. So this is the Nike Plus app, which is a great example. Some of you might use this or might have this, but basically it collects data on us, on your preferences, on your activities. Then it provides customized, relevant information, help and marketing right to your device, basically. So it knows what shoes you have, where you run, who you run with, when you run, how fast and fit you are. It offers you content you might like or helps you find the right shoes for you quickly and easily, for example. It sets you goals and challenges. It connects with other devices you have seamlessly. It hooks into your social channels so you can compare your time against friends or even have virtual races with them. And on a different note, this is the Future Education Project from the University of Southern Denmark, which is looking to ask lots about what higher education specifically should look like in the future. I guess they recognize that people are different and learn in different ways at different times and with different interests, and are exploring ideas around more like non-linear curriculums for their students. I think this is obviously aimed at a more mature audience and is likely potentially too extreme for our schools. But should we be asking the same questions about our schools? And I think we should. So let's move on. What might be happening by 2030 in our schools and education? So let's just come back to present day first, initially. So we're all happily minding our own business when this happened. Never in a generation has such a massive change across society and humanity been experienced like the current COVID pandemic we're in right now. And it's happened, and it's caused heartache and pain for millions, if not billions of people. But I think it's also given us opportunity for change. Schools, we went from this, classroom-based learning, to this, home-based learning. And we were asked to stay positive and adapt to the new normal, which, by the way, now is now known as the now normal. So back in April, when this is all kicking off, this image was being shared around at work by my colleagues. Basically says, digital transformation is years away. I don't see our company having to change anytime soon. And there's a giant COVID wrecking ball coming towards their business, completely smashed to pieces. I mean, we've been talking to a lot of our clients now, and they're absolutely, all of them are scrabbling to digitally transform their businesses, basically, because they realize that's where everybody is now, that's where everybody is at the moment, and that's where everybody is ultimately heading. So what if we applied the digital transformation to schools? Very subtle there, just changed the words company to school, by the way, if you haven't noticed. What might that be like? As I said, businesses that don't wake up to this are in trouble. So maybe our schools are in trouble too if we don't adapt to the new digital world that we're entering. So how can we empower teachers and students through the better use of connected technology and data? How can we create more personalized and relevant learning, content, and resources for pupils? So something we say a lot about at work is we don't go shopping. We are shopping all the time. And this is true, right? I mean, I don't just go to the shops to go shopping to buy my clothes. I can shop on my phone. I can shop on my computer. I can shop at any point, anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So let's look at how we might apply this fact to our education system in schools. So we don't do education, we are learning all the time. So is there a way to surface different things to all these different minds, giving them a more personalization beyond being at school? Well, this personalization is already happening in our world right now, and much more than you actually think. So this is Sky AdSmart. If you have Sky, this will be happening to you right now. Essentially, if you imagine if there was a street, so if there were two houses right next to each other, for example, one house might be slightly more affluent or better off. They'll be getting ads for Audis. The house next door to them, they might have like 3 kids, maybe not quite as well off. They could be getting ads for Fords. So basically, they're serving you ads that they think will be relevant to you and that you will appeal to you more. I'm sure you've all got Netflix. Netflix does a similar thing as well. Have you ever noticed the artwork changing on film titles on your account? This is actually done on purpose. So what it's doing is it's trying to serve to you a cover or an image that it thinks you will like, and it will draw you in to watch that show. And it's also learning about the shows you like as well. So over time, your Netflix account starts to surface different types of films or films that it thinks you will like more. And Facebook, I'm sure we all use Facebook, but this is like the master at surfacing relevant content to you and things that you might like or might be interested in, or things that your friends have done. Normally that's around or things you might want to buy. Obviously it's a big advertising platform, so it will try and sell you things that it thinks you might want to buy, essentially. So I was sent this great report from McKinsey & Company on reimagining a more resilient education system due to the COVID crisis. It's worth a read if you want. It's in the tool shed, I believe, in the festival field. But there was a great quote in the report that said, in the digital era, educators need to expand their understanding of what it means to be literate in the 21st century, not replacing traditional learning, but complementing it. So I think it's really important to note the word complementing here. Technology and data holds great power, and it's only become better, faster, and more ingrained into our world. And it's basically up to us to figure out how we can best take advantage of it and power up our education system. So let's get back to the school of 2030. So why 2030? Bear with me. 2030 felt like a good time to focus on. It's not so far ahead that it would be hard to create a vision for. And I felt like new technology and ideas are appearing now, might have been adopted by then. Knowing what I'm about to show you, I don't think that some of it is actually as radical as you might think. And kids are definitely still going to be going to school. So a huge caveat at this point. What I'm going to share is based on my experiences of what I know in my industry. I'm in no way an education expert, right? I'm going to try and create a snapshot of what it might be like to go to school in 10 years' time. So this is a vision, not a given, is an attempt to make a prediction of what it could be like, good or bad, right? And I want to stimulate conversation and ideas. So some of it might scare you, some of it might excite you. So yeah, so let's go. So this is Robin. So we're going to follow her day at school in 2030. She's 15. She's from the Generation Alpha. So Generation Alphas are born between 2010, which is the same year as the iPad came out, and 2025. They're born into technology. Data is not an issue for them. If you don't have access to tech, you don't exist, basically. You see the world from a global perspective and have a world of information at their fingertips that they can access on demand. Okay, Robin was using tech from the age of 3 on touch and voice. Robin uses voice search and AI to help her find what she needs or does not know. Her main device is her dad's old iPhone 18. I'm sure that'll be a pretty awesome piece of kit when it comes out. Robin also has a laptop and a mixed reality device of some kind, whether that's some kind of like smart glasses or headset, like a portable one that she carries around with her. Plays games on, things like that. And she uses mainly Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, WeChat, FaceTime, and she uses YouTube as a main entertainment channel. Facebook is for her parents, so she doesn't use that. I mean, there might be other social channels out or other platforms out at that point, but for the sake of argument, I'm using the ones that are out today. And she walked 1.5 miles to school every day. She's interested in art and engineering and is intrigued by home makeover shows, interior design and architecture. She also cares deeply about the environment and her impact on it. So what I've looked to do is build a vision around a centralized database of education powered by AI and connected touch points for Robin. So there's a centralized database on the left, and it can connect with all the devices that she uses. Future learning about Robin, what she likes, what she doesn't like, build a profile of her, and thus a personalized learning ecosystem better tailored to her that can grow and evolve with her, not just through her education years, but throughout her entire life. I've made assumptions that she would still be having regular lessons, much like they do today. But for today, I've looked at 3 lesson periods within this day. Throughout the journey, I've added in real-world examples that have already happened or are happening to back up some of the ideas or technologies I will share. So let's take a look at what a day at school might look like for Robin in 2030. So we're going to start with breakfast. So it's 7:30 a.m. and Robin is having her breakfast. Last night she had been watching a program about global warming and its impact on our planet with her family. She had been messaging her friends and posting about how others should watch it too. As she is having her Cheerios, she asks Google, what's on for school today? Google recognizes her voice and it tells her her itinerary for the day. And she is also given a choice of what she might be interested in doing as part of her global lesson. She is given 3 options: a science lesson, a technology lesson, or an engineering lesson. The engineering lesson is about the challenges of water shortages in developing countries. She chooses this lesson. So a lot of us have these at home at the moment, voice devices. Both my kids are using voice search multiple times a day. I mean, Robin, my daughter, was using it from probably the age of 4. She would just voice search everything, speaks to Alexa constantly. They don't have to type anything. Conversations with AIs is totally normal for the younger generation. They don't see it as an issue. And about 30% of all searches will be done without a screen by 2020. So that's now. I do it actually more than I do type searching. And it is predicted that 55% of households in the United States will own a smart speaker by 2022. So that's the morning. So she gets to school and this is her first lesson. So Robin's first lesson for the day is working on a joint professional partner lesson. She is working as part of a team on a project set by IKEA around designing better furniture for people with disabilities. The lesson is delivered to the class by an AI-driven IKEA employee hologram or avatar. Pupils can ask the avatar or look for clarification on the brief or problem. The teachers are there to oversee and drive the lesson along. There are thousands of partner lessons to be chosen from, and AI avatars are there to help deliver them. Robin works with her team on a problem brief set by IKEA in a space that has large breakout areas and digital boards or walls to encourage collaboration and debate and sharing of ideas. The shared digital boards can be accessed later on her devices so that the groups can continue to work on the project whenever the team wants. So some of these things are happening right now already. So I'm sure you're all aware of the Daydream Believers project, but essentially this is putting resources and creativity at the heart of education by uniting skills and insights of employers, teachers, lecturers, and students. The likes of Lego on there, and white space or even on there ourselves. And this is growing and growing. So these lessons exist. Miro, if you haven't used it, is a great web-based collaboration tool that allows you to hold video calls and work on shared virtual creation spaces or whiteboards. We're using that with our clients all the time. It's been incredibly successful, very, very good, a lot of fun to use. And then avatars are coming, ultimately, they are. Especially for you, if you like buying clothes online, you'll be able to turn yourself into a virtual avatar, check if clothes fit you before they're even sent out. And and when you put yourself into virtual worlds, and you can even add AI to create virtual autonomous versions of yourself. I'll talk more about that later. And also happening right now as well as holograms, or telepresence as they call it, is already in development, looking to enable teachers to be in more than one place. So you can imagine a teacher giving a lesson to 10 classes at once, which is very, very interesting. So this is stuff that's in development. It's been tested in universities, things like that. So let's move on to lunch break. So over lunch break, Robin accesses her personal school account. She can see all her past lessons and projects. She goes straight to her last lesson and brings up her IKEA chair and shows it to her friends, who start to pretend to sit on it, making suggestions of what they think and giving her feedback. So augmented reality, I'm sure you guys have all tried this, maybe on Snapchat, putting filters on your faces and all things like that. But IKEA have developed a tool, for instance, that allows you to check out their products and drop them into spaces in your living room, things like that. So we think the ability to visualize ideas in the real world, walk around them and inspect them, will enable pupils to go beyond paper, enabling them to iterate and tweak their ideas quicker and without waste, while also enabling them to share ideas with others anywhere on Earth. So after lunch, he goes for an afternoon lesson. So in this lesson, Robin has started working on her global lesson that she had chosen that morning while having her breakfast. It is an engineering assignment looking to solve water shortages in developing countries. What is different about this lesson is that she is working as part of a global class. Pupils from different nations have teamed up to take part in the lesson, encouraging diversity, not only of race, culture, but of age and thinking as well. The space is broken up into pods or areas with small teams of pupils and teachers working together. Smart tech automatically translates languages naturally to break down barriers of communication, and pupils can easily share and collaborate with connected digital drawings and tools. So happening right now. So I'm sure, well, we're using Zoom at the moment, Microsoft Teams, these things exist, very powerful, allow us to connect and work together on collaboratively, which is great. This thing in the middle is called the One Mini AI voice translator. So the first ever translator you probably heard of might have been the Babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you can instantly understand anything said to you in any form of language. With AI translation, this is no longer science fiction, it's actual reality. Something called Mozilla Hubs as well, which me and the team have been messing around, which is absolutely really, really interesting, which allows you to create virtual collaborative learning environments. It's completely free and web-based, no special tools needed. Create your own custom environments, and it allows you to form subgroups within the world you're in. So it's basically like Zoom, but you go into a virtual world, browser-based, and you can walk up to people and you'll hear them. And as you walk away from them, they get quieter. So it actually allows you to like mingle kind of socially, digitally, which is it's quite fascinating. And you could remodel your own classroom, for instance, in this application. Coming on to a final lesson. So Robin is in the final lesson for the day, where everyone is learning about the history of the Titanic. Everyone is using their mixed reality headsets and glasses to explore different key points of the lesson. This is not a passive experience, but an interactive one where pupils can interact with the environment and each other. They can walk over to each other or form groups. The teacher can have one or more discussion or bring up new learning material or stimulus within the environment. And we can even personalize the experience for each pupil to increase engagement. The technology can also record reactions or emotions to situations within the mixed reality world, allowing teachers to monitor responses, change the narrative, or change the narrative to try and re-engage pupils. So again, things that are happening right now, there are mixed reality headsets out already. So basically mixed reality essentially allows you to go from a completely virtual world, so that's everything is digital around you, to ones that are both real and virtual at the same time. So if you think like Pokemon Go, that's like putting digital things into the real world. So it allows you to transition between all of these states at once. And Apple is reputably launching Apple Glass soon next year. And we all know what happens when Apple releases something. It generally gains ground. The one in the middle, which was from Isobar actually. So this is, we worked with MIT Media Lab to develop a way to understand emotional states created by virtual, augmented and mixed reality experiences. And the thought here is this is going to lead on to something called XR, which basically allows virtual experiences to react to your emotional state. So if you're in a virtual world that's really scary and you're getting scared, it knows you're getting scared, it can calm it down for you and make it feel less scary. Or if you're not getting scared, it can make it scarier. So you can imagine what that's going to do to the horror film or the horror gaming
get your dog whatever you
the dog on the call now. There are other, and there are obviously other less immersive ways as well. So like Pokemon Go, you can use your device to unlock augmented content over traditional media, for instance. So this is a great example called Lessons in Her Story. So it was about, you had a history book and you could look through it and uncover all the stories, the hidden stories or unknown stories about women that have impacted history in the past. I really love this slide, so I just wanted to drop this one in here as it's very relevant to what I've just shown you, which comes around to experiences. So it's by William Glazer, but he says that, you know, we learn different percentages of different things. So 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, and so on. I've just highlighted 80% of what we experience. So when you experience something, you're more likely to remember it or learn more about it. So after school, Robin is walking home from school and she is browsing on social media and chatting with her friends about some ancient film from the 90s called The Titanic. It's a right tearjerker according to her teachers. Under a friend's post, she sees a Pocket School lesson that catches her interest. The Pocket Schools initiative was set up by a group of social media companies, and it empowers education professionals, brands, and anyone else for that matter to be able to set up their own virtual schools to provide bite-sized learning right to where kids spend most of their time. There are hundreds and thousands of education resources in the Pocket schools from all over the world. This particular Pocket school is from Lego, and it's about the Titanic, because we know she's been doing a lesson on the Titanic earlier. We can surface Titanic content to her. She quickly saves the resource to look at it later and shares it with her friends too. So this is a real world example here. So this thing is called KFC Pocket Stores. This was actually by KFC, but what it did is it allowed anybody to set up a virtual KFC store. It was launched over in China on WeChat. And it was hugely successful. I think there was 2 million Pocket stores. And basically what it allowed, it sounds a bit crazy, but it allowed you to sell KFC through your social channels to your friends, and you would get a small cut of that money. But what it's doing is the brand is allowing you to help set up what they call a me-commerce store. So potentially there's a thought here that by creating a social learning platform or Pocket schools, the Pocket schools idea would look to empower brands and teachers to get their resources and content right to where children are spending a lot of their time. You could create a whole new generation of famous influencer teachers, for instance. So if you're a teacher, you might want to set up your own virtual school, and you might, end up having lots of children engage with you and learn about the things that you are teaching, for example. During lockdown, me and my family have specifically used a lot of Maddie and Greg's lessons on YouTube. Every day we put it up on the screen, and the kids absolutely loved it. So that's kind of an example of, Maddie and Greg, for instance, could create their own little Pocket stores or schools like that. So there's lots of content out on the internet, learning tools and lessons. I guess this is a way of kind of like trying to centralize that and allow it better visibility to children. So just to finish up then on the evening. So Robin is browsing through her social media in her bedroom and chatting with her friends. She notices a post from one of her favorite virtual influencers who's talking about the latest in furniture design and trends. This AI-powered influencer has been created by a design school in Amsterdam, and she posts predominantly about furniture space planning and interior design. Robin decides to share her AI chair design from the IKEA lesson earlier and tags the virtual influencer the post. She hears back from the virtual influencer, who invites her to a live event where she will be talking about the subject and doing a live Q&A. So this is Lee Me Quella. Okay, she has 2.7 million followers, but she's not real. She is a virtual influencer. She's fully CGI'd. And there's a company, so it's a business called Malivar. And what it does is it creates virtual humans. So if you want a virtual human, it'll create one for you, and they're powered by AI. So as the barriers of the real and the virtual world start to blur even more, expect to see more virtual humans. And interestingly, children are now being born, and they play a lot of computer games, and avatars are actually finding quite a lot of fame amongst their audiences, especially in the likes of, what's it called? I can't remember. I've lost me. Fortnite, that's the one. And if you've seen films like Ready Player One, the avatars have this kind of like kudos and this famousness about them. And children and a lot of kids nowadays, especially Finn and some of his friends, they don't they actually talk about these avatars as real people. They might even start to appear alongside real people, for instance. So this is a live stream from a virtual avatar to real fans. I have no idea what they're talking about, but in Asia and the Far East, it's extremely popular right now. So the virtual avatar will go on live online, and they'll have conversations with their audiences. So there's a thought here. It's like, what's to stop there being virtual teachers? It sounds crazy as I say it, but it could be something that happens ultimately. So I hope I haven't blown your mind too much at the end there, but all these things are actually happening right now. So over the course of that one day of Robin being at school, we have surfaced and prompted to relevant content that she might like, looking to encourage better engagement. We've given Robin a choice about what she wants to learn about, allowing for more choice and empowerment. We've connected Robin to a more diverse and collaborative classroom with the use of virtual multi-use teaching spaces in schools. We exposed Robin to real-world lessons and tasks by working beyond the school walls with real-world professionals and global students. We've created virtual immersive environments for Robin to help captivate and enhance her learning experience through mixed virtual and augmented reality experiences. We've allowed Robin to share her ideas and inspire others via video, social messaging, and collaborative tools, creating a bigger learning community. And we've looked to keep Robin learning engaged even when not at school, with targeted content on channels like YouTube, with virtual influencers and the pocket schools that she wants to be part of. But remember, that was just Robin's day. So if we looked at another child, their education experience would be different based on their interests and decisions. It's not just Robin that would potentially benefit. It's also her teachers and her parents that will be able to see what sparks interest in her and get real-time data, allowing them to better tailor and track her education performance. And a lot of this is already starting to be done, actually. I came across this yesterday as my son's school, because I'm down in Peebles. It's the first school in the county that's going to take part in what's called Apple's education program. So they actually have this program, I believe, that allows you to do some of the things that I've just talked about, like augmented reality. Each child has an iPad, and you can track their progress. You can send them lessons. You can collaborate together. All the kids can collaborate together on the same iPads, or you can, and et cetera, et cetera. So some really interesting things happening there. If you've not had a look, this could well be the future of education in terms of how we work with our schools. As I said, I'm not an education professional, but do take a look at that. So in terms of our key takeaways, get used to the sharing of personalized data. It's here to stay. We just need to learn to harness it and use it better and more humanely. Personalization is already happening, and it will keep getting better. We are not our children. We see the world differently. They see the world differently to us and use technology naturally from a very young age. And the barriers and complexity to technology are disappearing along with the blurring of the real and virtual worlds. So powering up our schools is going to take time, right? So over the course of pulling this session together, I've come to realize that we're already doing a lot to power up education. As I said, it's going to take a long time. It's not going to come quickly. But if our eyes are open to the exciting and some of the downright scary possibilities that lie ahead of us, we can work together to create a new and exciting chapter in education. I wanted to go back to the McKinsey report that I mentioned earlier. There's a great quote in here which says, while great use of technology in education might be inevitable, technology would never replace a great teacher. In fact, a single teacher can change a student's trajectory. Yeah, it's still down to teachers to teach, guide and inspire. We can't replace them ever, but we can help them to keep delivering great lessons and experiences while looking to inspire their pupils in this connected intelligence world that we're entering. And just quickly from the World Economic Forum, who said, the overhaul of teaching and education methods is much needed, and not only because of the breathtaking pace of change being ushered in by digital technologies, 5G, AI, and data. It's also necessary because of current models of teaching and education are still firmly rooted in practices that have been around for 200 years or more. I think we need to quickly think about how new technologies can be used to complement and improve models of teaching education. Our children seem to definitely be ahead of the game here compared to us. I can't finish up before I mention this. It's a film called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's pretty terrifying. I'm not going to lie. It is about personalization, and how, I guess it highlights how personalizing or surfacing content to people can do bad as well as good. So we have to be careful with how we continue down this kind of future data, AI, and technology path, because ultimately we're going to be going down it, right? So I'm hoping we can all be more humane with data and technology. We need to use it in the right way for the betterment of humanity and not to drive greed, hate, and division, but instead unison, collaboration, and enlightenment. And I was going to end on this slide, but I realised that change isn't coming. Change has already come. So thanks. there's any questions, I'll happily take some questions.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start because it's one of the best provocations I've ever heard, Chris. So it's brilliant. And I have watched The Social Dilemma, and after watching Extinction with David Attenborough the previous week, I felt like drinking a bottle of whiskey and never waking up, because it's scary stuff, but you can't avoid the scary stuff. And I think what your presentation suggests is that the undeniable fact that the world is changing at an accelerated rate, and it's what we do about that. And it's how we challenge that. And a bit like what Claire was saying is like, for me, what is the role of the teacher? And for me, the difference between teacher and technology is a humanity that technology doesn't have. But hearing you speak, what technology is doing is catching up fast. The fact that you can adapt a computer program or whatever it was to the emotional needs of that child, so make it scarier, make it safer. I mean, you're talking about what a teacher does. If the flow zone, I talk a lot about the flow zone. So if a class isn't working, you know you need to put a bit of energy into it, or you need to calm it down. And that, for me, you go, well, what is the role of the teacher anymore? And why have a group of teachers in one school when you need one avatar teacher to teach 1,000 pupils? Or what other adults are in the space? All these brilliant questions can't be avoided.
I do worry that kids don't seem to be bothered by it. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying that. That's quite a broad statement there. You know, but some kids might not be bothered by it, or you know, they're not going to tell. You know, not going to be bothered that it's a virtual avatar or a real human. It's like, you know, it is scary. It scares me. I'm not going to lie. Are there any questions in there? Is there any questions for anybody else? There's a lot. I don't think I can read all those questions quick enough.
I think exactly what we wanted in bringing people like yourselves, businesses, charities, and, you know, to bring you into the education forum and have these difficult questions. And, you know, the bonfire is supposed to spark, and I'm delighted that we're recording this, because I think everyone, you know, within the education field, out with that, needs to listen to this, because exactly what you said is that it's that inability to differentiate between what's real and what isn't real. And if you've got teenage kids at the minute, I mean, their faces are in a screen, you know, whether we want to acknowledge that or believe that, and more so now, they're looking out with the school walls and are being far more inspired. So yeah, I don't know if there's any more questions out there in the field.
I've got one. My question is a bit of a scenario with this whole personalization of data. If, for argument's sake, I am an aspiring crime novelist and I want to write a book on far-right extremism, and as a writer, I will research the topic. So I'll go get the standard books on psychology of extremism, and then I'll go a bit more further into the psychology of what makes a far-right terrorist. So I'll go into their websites, go into their chat forums, maybe buy the anarchist cookbook to understand what they would do with that technology and that understanding. And once I get into my book, writing it, once I've completed that, the possibility of getting more and more of these pop-up ads for various more far-right ideas, etc., etc. And possibly this data getting leaked perhaps even to the police. The last thing I would want is for my book project to end up on police radar. How can we sort of prevent this issue?
Yeah, again, that's going to be how can we prevent that issue? I guess that's going to have to be driven by. I mean, if you look at Facebook, for instance, they're really bad at that. They will keep surfacing the same stuff to you over and over again, and I think it's companies like that, or data companies, that need to be held accountable to, you know, to make sure that we're getting a balanced. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know how I can answer that.
Even if you take that to the next level, Chris, I support XR Rebellion, and they're about to decide that that's a terrorist organisation. So based on the government, your position can change, even though mine hasn't. External forces are deciding that. So if Priti Patel decides she's going to access my social media, all of a sudden I'm on her radar. And even more scary than that, you know, I'm in a same-sex relationship with 3 kids, and that's fine in this country at the moment, but they can roll back freedoms and then all of a sudden, you know, and I do think twice about putting my kids on social media for that reason, because all of a sudden I'm on a radar. And the same with my kids' data and the data that's already collected by the school about them, especially in the last 6 months. Who owns that data? How is it being protected? Is it going to follow them? Do you know, if my son decides, and hopefully he's not doing this today at school, to set fire to something, does that data travel with him the rest of his life? Do you know, and that is the scary, scary thing about a lot of this.
It is very scary, yeah. It is. It is. And I think in the last 5 years, it's the whole of the kind of, you know, social media it's just got worse, I think, in terms of that kind of division and hate. And I think it's, you know, we're at a turning point now almost. It's almost like, you know, the environment. We need to do something about it. We need to figure out what it is we can do and how we can, you know, we can make it work and make it more humane and make it better and not make it just a platform of hate, basically.
Chris, there's a question here about, have you shown this presentation to children to see what they think about it? Is it something that they embrace or
I have not. I've not shown it to children. No. I think maybe just showing them the user journey part would be interesting. I don't think they'd need to see the rest of it. But that's an interesting question. Is that something you think I should do? Whoever said that.
It's from Joe on the chat here. So
I did actually share it with Helena's class last week.
Ah.
But they're a bit older.
Yeah, they are, but it was still really interesting for them, and how the story was told to start with, actually giving us a student to identify with, and then what the possibilities. And some of my students are here today, which is fabulous. But I have to say, nobody got worried about it or kind of annoyed about it or freaked out about it. It didn't really spark the same reaction I think it sparks amongst perhaps people our age.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Helena. There's a danger we're being well-intentioned adults, and well-intentioned adults don't understand what's happening, and so we make all these decisions based on our knowledge, our world, our cultural experiences, and it's a disaster. And we've done it, well, ever since the dawn of time, thinking we know best, because we think that's wrong. And actually, it might not be. There might be great advantages of this, and it's how you marry that tension up. But the tension is absolutely there, and that's the thing that I think we need to talk about.
I suppose the wonderful thing in recording this, and it's a call out to everybody, is you are in education and can't edit this and show when it goes in the Bonfire, show it to your class and, you know, give feedback. It'd be lovely, you know, through Chris, we can share details and that, because I do think you've sparked something here, Chris, which is really, really interesting. And I know in 50 minutes covering the future of education 2030 is a really difficult task. But I think you've done a fantastic job. I don't know what anyone else.
There is. I mean, I'd love to just speak to more education professionals about it. I feel like we need to get schools and education people together with data specialists and, you know, companies like Facebook. I mean, surely they must be thinking about this, or what effect they're having on children or the new generation. Surely they must have a team somewhere that's going, we need to sort this out. You know, it's like they're very closed doors, so we don't know what they're doing. I guess otherwise, you know, it's like, how do we, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
Can I just, on behalf of the festival team, thank Chris, because I know when business come and contribute, it's chargeable time. And I also know for a fact that he, you know, when he should be earning money for his company, he was actually putting a massive amount of effort into this. So a huge thanks to what's been, as Paul says, one of the fieriest, sparkiest, if that's even a word, Bonfire for all of us. So a huge, huge thanks to you. head along out there now to the Discovery tent, perhaps head to the Ideas Playground. If anything has sparked for you and you want to share that about your fear of AI and data, let's start a really interesting conversation amongst the swings and the roundabouts this morning on that. Because I think this is where something really discuss and develop. And so massive thanks to wherever you've joined us from across the world. Wonderful to see so many of you here. And a massive thanks again on behalf of the team to Chris. You're an absolute star. Brilliant.
No worries. Really enjoyed
Thanks,
it.